in most budget support and in most countries, the policy dialogue is about looking at the implementation of public policies and their results and seeing whether these results are actually being produced and whether they correspond to what was expected, and having a conversation about what activities, what inputs are being used to produce the basic public services that we are supporting with budget support. If they're not delivered, trying to find different alternative ways to approach policy implementation or different setups for the institutional framework or the organizational framework. So we're really looking at trying to accompany the government in its design and in its implementation of its public policy. A second main objective of the policy dialogue in the context of budget support is that it opens the door to putting on the table some topics of conversation with the government which might actually be quite sensitive and might be quite difficult. And I'm thinking about things like fundamental values. I would measure effectiveness by how you manage to, through your policy dialogue, how you manage to influence the different parties around the table to talk together and discuss issues. And I think that is one of the very important matters that has come to light during the training in the Gambia. In some countries, of course, budget support policy dialogue is not going so well, simply because, there's many reasons, but it might be because the government is not really interested in hearing what the EU has to say, or culturally it's difficult for the government and stakeholders to accept that a donor sits around the table discussing public policy. Identifying, formulating, designing a budget support, and then implementation. And at all these different stages, policy dialogue is absolutely key. One of the aims of policy dialogue is to bring new evidence. So we need to have a lot of information about the topics that we're talking about in order to bring value added to this conversation with the government and the stakeholders. The government of the Gambia had a specific problem, which was the disbursement dossier. And the training workshop helped the government in preparing a sort of generic report stating exactly who is in charge of what in terms of monitoring and reporting. So at the end of the training, we came home and polished a little bit the document, but send it back to them. And this is now hopefully become a document which serves the government of the Gambia to make the ball rolling and deliver the disbursement dossier to the EU.